super excited to speak to you. So, I know that obviously you're our first person on the podcast that's in the dancing realm, and it's sort of a creative realm
Ah,
that we're very interested in. So, I want to take it back to when you first started, right? So, I think it's interesting to discover your passion. So,
mm,
we're constantly piquing curiosity by discovering passions and how people do discover their passions. So, how did you first
yeah.
discover your passion for the dance industry, and how did you find yourself in this space? Was it a certain moment, or were you always around dance, and was this something that was destined to happen, or how could you sort of give me an idea of how you got there?
Yeah, Mike, great question. How did I get into dance or find the passion for dance? It started because all my family did martial arts and all my family danced when I was very young. I remember going to a local bachata scene when I was probably 12 years old, and I had to get on tippy toes to spin girls, and I would memorize a couple moves. I went a couple times before my parents went, and ended up that it was just a bunch of college kids drinking. And they're like, "You are definitely not allowed to go to that." But I had so much fun. Siblings were there. It was a great time. And fast forward probably 5 years, I believe I started more so when I was 17. I moved out of my parents' house when I was about 16 to a new city to start my career in martial arts. But I had been doing it for so long that I was wanting a new physical challenge.
Mm.
I want to learn something new. And bonus, I get to meet new people because I'm in a brand new city. And bonus, I get to meet girls. That's how it started. So at 17 years old, I was in a brand new town, and I was like, my family's danced. My brother danced, and he was in the same city. I'm going to go dance. So I fell into the bachata scene, and I learned a little bit and got into the music, and yeah, had a great time meeting people, having fun, dancing. But there was a specific element of bachata that I really, really enjoyed. And it was this thing called body isolation. So pretty much you stand there, you move more of your body instead of being focused on spins and crazy patterns. And I loved that part so much. And to the point where sometimes when I would dance with people, I would just stand and I would maybe try to breathe or try to connect more. And some of them thought it was very weird. Some people would just walk off in the middle of dancing with me. Some person backed up and was like, "Do you know the basic step of bachata?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know the basic. I just like to dance this way." And some people loved it. And then I kind of fell into this other dance style called Zouk. When I first saw it, I promised myself I'd never learn how to do it because it looked like chaos. But eventually I found it. And I learned enough in order to allow me to have fun with it. It was actually during COVID when I was living with a partner at the time that there was nothing else to do. I decided, you know what, I'm going to train dance every day.
Mm.
So got into it, and three hours on average every day, I think we trained, and we got really good. And I started posting on social media a lot during that time, and my name kind of got out there a little bit too.
Now, did you find, sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt, now, did you find that
no, please.
you growing up around martial arts, did you find nuances in martial arts also carried over into dance? Because I'm sure there's some type of physical
Mm,
discipline when it comes to martial arts, certain forms, certain attributes that you could translate over to the dance realm, especially with
yeah,
bachata. Did you
yeah,
find that you kind of had an advantage over others who maybe didn't start off with that type of background?
yeah. Another really good question. I found that the mental attributes definitely carried over. The physical attributes, funny enough, I did have a better body awareness, but I learned martial arts when I was so young, Mike, that I didn't really have to think about it.
Mm.
Like I was a teacher in martial arts, so I knew how to teach people, but I had just done it for, I don't know, at that point, maybe, yeah, 10 years. So it was just in my body. I'd started when I was young. It was one of the first sports that I did, one of the first activities that I did. I felt good, like I was fine. When I learned dance, though, is when I started to really pay attention because I was learning something new as an adult. That's when I took the physical and I flipped it back to martial arts. And I was like, wait, what are we doing in martial arts? Like, what's going on here? You know, because I had this focus that came from dance now. But the mental attributes very much did. I would say the biggest one was discipline. Discipline and focus. I was willing to train 3 hours every day. That's what felt good to me. That's what I enjoyed. I loved the nuances of things. Being able to stay focused on a specific task, something like that.
How important is the mental discipline when it comes to dancing? Because I feel like a lot of people outside looking in, you could just think it's a bunch of physicality that has to go into
Mm,
the realm. I mean, you just spoke a little bit about mental discipline. Can you
right.
give us sort of the 411, a little insight on sort of the mental discipline that you need, whether it's just the bachata or it's something, maybe other realms of dance as well?
Right. Yeah, I'm learning more and more that it's a huge aspect. But your first question was how important is the mental side to dance? And I would say it depends on how good you want to be at it. It depends on how deep you want to dive into it. There's people who could care less about the mental aspect. They just go there to have a little bit of fun, think about the moves they want to do, and that's it. And that's fine too. But I would say, especially if you're wanting to dive really deep into an art like dance, I have found that the mental side is possibly the most important. Maybe to give a couple examples of how I found that to be. Number one, the discipline. Like when you're going into something like an art, there's so many times that you want to quit.
Yeah.
Like our martial arts students, we would look at parents who were enrolling their kids for 3 years, and we would say, and they'd be so scared that their kids want to quit. They're like, yeah, we just don't know if we really want to commit to black belt because yeah, we're scared Johnny's going to want to quit. And we would look them in the eyes and say, Mrs. Jones, of course your kid's going to want to quit. It's like, that's what's going to happen on average 3 times. So the first one was the mental fortitude to push past the times where my body hurts and I don't want to do it. I feel like I suck at dance. I am not having fun in this moment. That's the first attribute that I feel really helped me was, okay, this happens. I went through this in martial arts too. It's okay. This is a part of the cycle. It's a part of the journey, you know? I would say the second thing was the focus. Okay, I want to be one of the best. I want to be really good. In order for me to do that, I need to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. What are people not willing to do? They're not willing to walk around the floor for an hour with their partner, just focusing on the way they position their foot. I can be willing to do that. And I have the focus and the discipline to be able to focus on that. I say these things like I feel very egotistical. Let's see. Yeah, these are all things I've struggled with too. There's so many times recently I'm back in the mindset of focus, and yet I'm challenged with it. I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I don't feel like I can stay focused on. I don't feel like I'm able to really dive into this deep as I want to. So it's all a struggle and it's all a practice. I'm not perfect at this for sure. Yeah, many other things that transfer over when it comes to the mental, but there's a lot more that I'm learning from dance and the mental that I think I could go back and apply to martial arts also.
How did you find, just because you're speaking about sort of the long training sessions that you've had, how did you find your home when it came to your studio? Like your group that you were training with, who you were constantly dancing with, was that something that you already knew people in the space and you were like, okay, this is
Mm.
now who I'm going to be training with? Or was there just a studio local to you, and that's sort of something that comes about? Because I could imagine it's an environment, right? And if the environment's not right, then
Mm.
maybe it's just not right for you. Was it just you went into studio one day and it was right for you, or how did you find, I guess, your studio to start training and stuff like that?
Right. Yeah, I have a very different journey than I would say most people in this aspect. I would say most people is around a school that has consistent classes. They go take classes. That's how they get good. They want more leadership role. They start teaching a little bit or helping. And mine was not that at all. I'm in a city with almost zero dance. Like not at all. I had a couple people. My brother was a dancer. His girlfriend was a dancer. My girlfriend was a dancer, and her sister was a dancer. And that was it. None of them were teachers. And the closest scene was about 2.5 hours away in Washington, D.C. So we would drive up there on weekends. But my discipline came from, yeah, I guess I did get to see my brother. I have to give him a lot of credit for that. I saw him dancing, and I was like, oh, shoot, he's getting into it. Let me try to do that too. Mm-hmm. But a big part of it also was like, I got just enough success. Not success in the fact that I felt good, but success in the fact that I was like, this is fun. I enjoy this. I like this. This is cool. And that took a little bit of time to get past that barrier. It was a little bit of my girlfriend's peer pressure of like, come on, you should learn this. It's really good. Go, go, go. And I was like, okay, fine. But after that moment switched, I was just like, you know what? This is all I have around me. I'm going to schedule a training with each one of them. I'm gonna dance with each one of them every single day if I can. So some days I would dance with 2 people. I would do it before going to teach martial arts and after teaching martial arts. Sometimes I would just dance with one of them. And on the weekends, I would travel 2.5 hours to the city. I would contact as many friends as I could, or as many people as I knew up there. Say, hey, I really want to train. Can you meet up this day? And I would just ping pong around, sleeping on people's couches. I would dance with some people. I would go to the next house. I would always be the one to drive and meet them at their place. And that's how I learned and got into it. And a part of it was the fact that there was people around me, a couple people, but not many. But I feel like a big part of it was my own internal motivation. I just really loved it. I did not plan on teaching. I didn't plan on traveling the world for it. I didn't plan on working with it. In fact, I promised myself I would not, because I did that with martial arts, and it changed my relationship with martial arts. It became a business. It wasn't my pleasure anymore. It was amazing business. I loved it, but it became business. And I promised I would not do that with dance. So I went all in because I just loved it. And I wanted to be really good. That was my big motivating factor, not necessarily the people around me. I would say I was more motivated than most of them.
So what you just recently spoke about, it's very important that people hear, because there is a fine line between when people have a hobby and then they dive deep into that hobby and try to get good at it and then find, luckily, some success in that hobby, and then it turns into like a job, right? And it feels like the passion is dwindling from that. So could you speak a little bit more about how it is your journey now with dance is different from with martial arts, where it sounds like, just from the sounds of it, that your passion started to dwindle away from martial arts, and how your passion is now very high and is ever growing with dance. What is maybe someone like just me or someone else could look at and say, you know what, I have a passion for something, but where is the line where somebody would be like, I don't want to feel like it's a job, or I feel like I don't want to get worn out from it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, this is such a good question, and I'm gonna be really honest. I don't know if I have full answers for it. I was always taught, and this is such an interesting analogy. If you love to bake, don't open a bakery. That's what I was taught in the martial arts world. Like, if you love, and so there's a part of me that believes this. Like, yeah, if this is your hobby, being in the working atmosphere of it, being in the business of it, needing to do it to survive, changes everything so much. And it could be amazing, but it could also not be. And I think awareness is really the first thing. You need to understand, if I love this and I want to go deeper into it, I want to start making money with it, I want to take it to more people, I want to go bigger with it, it can possibly change. Is that something you're willing to risk? Or is that something you have the ability to test and then make a choice? I think that's really great. And that's something that I was given in the dance world that I was not necessarily given in the martial arts world. The martial arts world for me, it was like my whole family did it. So I was just kind of like, okay, I'll just do it. I fell into it before I was so young. I was 17 when I started working full-time in it. And when that happened, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I liked, what I didn't like. I just know that I had told myself since I was 10 that this was going to be my career. So here I am making it my career. Good job. And then at some point it started to wear on me a little bit. Okay, maybe this isn't my thing. Maybe there is something past this that I can do. But life took me there. And I think that's the second thing I learned is like, you got to trust life a little bit. If you're in a place for a certain reason, it's probably giving you the tools and preparing you for what's to come. So I cannot look at martial arts and say, oh, maybe that wasn't my end-all be-all, so I shouldn't have done it. I had to do that in order to get where I am now, for sure. I could not have passed that stage. So trust life a little bit would be my first kind of encouragement. Number 2, go in with the awareness that making it a work probably will change it. And some people are okay with that. Some people aren't. Some people, the benefit of it outweighs the con of it, right? That's good. So my encouragement also is, can you test it out in some way? I did not dive into dance like this is my thing, let's do it. It's either make or break. I had a process. I was still doing martial arts when I started to teach dance just because I love to teach too. I was like, this is so fun. I'm going to do it. I don't really care about the money. I just want to teach. It sounds great. I started teaching and I was like, oh, I guess I could up my rate a little bit and make myself more expensive. Like, cool, let's do that. But I had income from other sources. And then it slowly started to fade where although I do have income from other sources, dance is my main thing now. Yeah. And I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular I would give as advice if someone wants to test it out. Just see if you can start slow. And just be aware that it's an option. You might get in and you might say, this changes too much. I lose my passion for it. But you also, in that process, might find a passion for teaching, or might find a passion for business, or might find a passion for customer service and communication and sales. Like, you could find other passions within that. It's not that this art has to be my end-all, be-all passion.
I love that. That was
Yeah.
actually a very, very good answer. Very well rounded. Um,
Thank you.
and I want to go into a little bit around inspiration because I feel like there has to be some type of inspiration to certain performances and routines. So, is there, I guess, unusual or maybe surprising sources of inspiration that you're drawn to whenever you're performing, or is it just your go-to routines and that's sort of what you go through, or like how do you get inspiration, I guess, when you're going through certain routines and stuff like that?
Yeah, very cool, very cool. When you say routines, I want to be really clear. The dance that I do actually is not choreographed at all. So it's very much improv constantly with a dancer, which does create a little bit of difficulty, right? Because in a choreography, I've never done really choreographies except in martial arts, but I'm imagining that there's this performance aspect, there's this grading aspect. Like, here's one person who's better than the other. We're ranking this as first and this as second because this choreography had cooler moves, had better musicality, had whatever it is. And what I do, which is social dancing, teaching people how to connect with another human without any choreography, anything can happen. There becomes this question mark: who is better than another? There is no first place or last place. It's art. It's all subjective. One moment, my dance could be the most amazing thing for some person and the worst for another person. And so it just creates a little bit of this confusion, especially with someone who has a martial arts background, a tournament background, I want to be the best background, a competitive 7 sibling background. I'm the youngest. I got to fight for what I want, right? It becomes this challenge of like, I want to be the best, but what is the best? How do I get this inspiration? How do I know what I need to work on in order to become better at this very subjective thing called art or called social dancing? How do I figure that out? Definitely other dancers. I look at a couple of dancers that really inspire me, and I'm like, wow, I love the sensation they're able to create. I love how people who have danced with them speak about them. That's the type of thing I want people to talk about me. So then I go and I dance with those people. I put myself around them. I learn from them as best I can. I take their classes. I take private lessons. Or I just figure out how to be there. But I go to the people that they influenced or that they gave an experience to. So for example, I have a couple leaders that I really look up to. The person who leads the dance, and there's followers who follow within the dance. I will go to the followers who danced with the leaders and say, hey, what did you like about that? Okay, that's amazing. How do I dance differently than that person? What could I do better? What do they do that I don't, that you really like? Or my one question I love asking these people, the followers, is what's one thing that I could add, take away, or change about my dancing to be more of your favorite dancer?
That's so powerful.
Yeah, and they always give me something that I can work on. So I have a list on my phone of all the things I'm training. And I just keep adding to it whenever I ask these questions. And I ask the people that dance with my dance idols, in essence. And I'm like, hey, what do they do that I don't? What can I learn? You've danced with me, you've danced with them. How can I do something better?
It's the perspective of being humble and constantly learning and understanding that you don't have all the answers and it's okay to search for answers and try to get better with your craft. And that's beautifully put. And I think a lot of people could learn from that. Is there certain realms, just because, again, somebody who's rather ignorant to dancing, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions about, the dance realm. Is there certain realms of dance that you're just not willing to, like, people you're just not willing to dance with just because it's a completely different style?
Mm,
Like, just calling it what it
that's
is, right? Like, I'm like, break dancing is completely different than contemporary dancing, which is completely different, so, like, is there a certain
yeah.
style that you're like, nope, I'm staying out of that kind of deal?
Yeah, of course. So the dance I do is called Brazilian Zouk, and within this bubble, are there people within that I'm like, that's that type of dance, that version of it is not for me. Yeah, I'm gonna play this into what you just said about the humility and the growth mindset is what I'm gonna take, is what I'm gonna label that as. If I come from a growth mindset, I will always try to put myself in those circumstances of dancing with the people I maybe don't enjoy dancing with so much. And the reason is because I believe that if I had all the tools, like somebody, as long as they're a good dancer, right? If they're a high quality or advanced dancer, somebody's gonna love dancing with that person. If somebody loves dancing with a person and I don't, what perspective do I need in order to enjoy this person? Because somebody has it. So how can I go find it? And so it's very much a growth minded thing for me, right? I go into it and I'm like, okay, that did not feel like I wanted it to. That was not as good as I know I'm capable of. What do I need to learn in order to be this person's favorite? And usually I'll go to that person and ask him, hey, maybe I'll say sometimes, depending on the relationship, I feel like we just don't connect in dancing. I'd love to know more about what you would need. Or I felt this moment, like what happened here? What could I do in order to make this? And sometimes they're like, oh wow, I absolutely love the dance. I thought it was amazing. And I'm like, we can do better. We got this. Come on, what do I need to
Yeah,
do?
yeah, yeah.
Like, tell me about it. And sometimes it's the opposite. I'm sure I had amazing dance and they thought it was bad. Um, so that's the first thing is like I try to the very best of my ability to approach all of these dances with a little bit of a growth mindset. Because if they're an advanced dancer and some people like dancing with them or they're a teacher or like, then they've got something I can learn from. But of course, there's some people where maybe I don't have that type of relationship to come to them and confront them or ask them. And after enough time, I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't think we have the same values. Your value is to perform and show off, and my value is to connect with you and to take my time and to build. And you're not in that same place. We're not there. Neither is right or wrong. It's just not for us in this moment of our journey. And that's okay. So yes, there are some people.
That makes sense. I know you mentioned that your social dancing's an art, right? Does that completely eliminate the competitiveness within the realm? Because obviously there's probably, I would be willing to think there's still some type of competitiveness, right?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So, like,
Yeah.
does that, make you want to be better? And again, your family's in the space, your partner's in the space. Like, is there that weird competitiveness between you guys? Like, how is that? How's that like?
Yeah, wow, this has been a whole journey for me. The first thing I'll say is within social dancing, which is one leader, one follower within a dance structure, but nobody knows what's going to happen. You just go with the music and feel and whatever. There is a certain competition that's becoming bigger. It's called a Jack and Jill. It's where they pair two random people up with a random song and say, who's going to perform this the best?
Wow.
Right? So there is this type of competition within it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I've never done it. It's a little bit maybe of an ego thing for me that I've never done it because I've lasted so long without, and because it's becoming so big, and because its values are a little bit different than maybe what I value currently in dance. So there's that. But outside of the very clear, this is a competition structure that's happening, I believe that a lot of people probably don't admit how much competitiveness they have in their own heart and mind. Some people are not this way. I am. Yeah, I had a brother. I would walk into a festival with hundreds of people and they would look at me, somebody would look at me and say, oh, you're this person's brother. And I was like, no, he's my brother. I'd like very much so. I'm the youngest kid. I always had to be good enough at something in order to be accepted in the family or to be able to play with my brothers. So there was very much this competitiveness. Sometimes I'm dancing, it wasn't this way at the start. This is what I find interesting. When I first started dancing, I was just a beginner. I knew I was bad. I was like, okay, this is fine. But then after you start getting a little bit of validation and a little bit of fame, you start growing a little bit of this ego. Your head gets bigger. You're like, all right, I'm good. And then you start comparing yourself with the people who were your idols. the people who were the people you looked up to and said, wow, you're amazing, I want to learn. Like, how can you start being like, no, I think I can do that, I can do, you know? And I struggle with that still. Like, I still have those moments for sure where I'm dancing next to people and I'm watching what they're doing and I'm like, am I giving the person that I'm dancing with the same experience that this person is able to give them? And I start judging myself based on how I perceive in my own head, not in real life, but just in my head, how I'm doing versus this other person. Or when my brother was in the scene, maybe comparing myself to him. Yeah, I had a lot of anger and resentment for sure during a long period of time because of the competitiveness and how I was compared to him constantly by other people. So that was very much a challenge. So yeah, it's still there for sure.
Very difficult thing to overcome as well, especially being, in the space, and mentally it's very difficult to control your ego and be mentally disciplined during those moments. I could only imagine, especially being able to, because a lot of people say these types of creative spaces, the physical performance is almost a reflection of your mental discipline and what's, going on in your mental aspect. So I could only imagine being able to control your mental discipline during those moments. And even though you're finding success in the space, your ego could really come out, I'm sure, in certain moments. So I could only imagine in certain moments where it comes to light. So
it takes so much away from the pleasure of it too. Like when that gets involved, like there's a weird part of me that likes it because I think it pushes me to be better. And there's the other part that I can tell it makes me worse. When I'm sitting there and not paying attention to my partner, and I'm thinking if this other person's doing better than me, instantly losing focus on my partner, instantly losing connection, instantly I get worse at dance. In that moment, it's flies out the window. The moments where I disappear from everything around me, nobody else matters and nothing else, I don't care about anything else, that's when I'm always at my best. So I think it's about this balance of, okay, I am going to look in the outside world. I'm going to look at the other dancers around me. I'm going to intentionally watch, not to compare myself to them, but to learn from them. How can I put my humility aside, my ego, my big head that I got from this validation? How can I put it aside? How can I sit there and watch videos and learn and go back to this empty cup I had when I first started to gather information? But then how can I let it all disappear and just keep both my eyes on the target, not one eye on somebody else?
Do you still feel that, and again, this is getting a little deeper, do you still feel like you have performances where you do, like to somebody who's trying to still use dance to seek validation from others, um, how difficult is it to be able to release from that aspect of, like, because there's a lot of people out there that are trying to make their mom, dad, brother, sister just proud. And I think dance is a very good industry where if you're physically good, you see it right then and there. If you're physically bad, you see it right then and there.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to dissociate from that, from the validation of from others, just completely releasing from that?
Of course. That's a great question, Mike. I think it's easier in some moments and harder in some moments. When you feel really good about what you do, I find it really easy. When I feel like, yeah, I'm working hard, I'm training consistently, I'm putting in the effort, whatever else happens matters. I know my worth. I know how much effort I've put into this. I'm okay. And then the moments where maybe you're not on top of training, you have a little harder time focusing. You don't feel on. Like so much, Mike, I've learned that the journey of growth does not go like this. I know we all know this. I read it in a book. I remember when I read it in a book, I cried. This was a huge moment. I always felt like I got worse at dance. Every time I would go and I'd be like, I'm amazing. The next day I'm like, I swear I was able to do this like 2 days ago. What's going on? What's happening? And then I read this in the book that the Road to Growth is a great book. It's what I named my LLC when I first started it for dance. It's called Chop Wood, Carry Water is the book name. It's like a storybook of how to master something. It talked about when you get better, you have this moment of growth, then this slight decline, and then a long plateau. Then it happens again. You grow, you get a little worse, long plateau. And when I heard that, it was so validating for me to go through these moments where I felt really bad about my dancing in comparison to myself, where I was like, I'm okay. This is a part of the process. I get a little worse. I plateau for a while, then I grow. I'm going to keep working till that moment, right? So during those moments, though, where I would hit a low, it was really hard to let go because I knew what I was capable of. I knew I would have the dances that would blow my mind and my partner's mind. I knew I would have the dances where I would leave the dance floor and be like, I am a god among men. This is amazing. But I would have the days, too, where I was like, I'm the worst dancer in the world, I swear to you. And that's the moment that it was hardest not to compare. And that's the moments that are hard not to, your ego to act up and be like, come, like, what's going on? You need to be better. You like, it starts judging everything. But what I found, I don't know if we're skipping anything by going into this. What I found is the answer is not to hype yourself up in the moments that are bad. And it's not to put yourself down in the moments that you're high. That's not humility. That's not putting the stuff aside. The idea is to know that you're going to get worse. You're going to get better. To know that you're going to have great days. You're going to have bad days. It is a part of the process. You cannot grow without this happening. So then it's to accept and be okay with all the stages. And this is something big that dance taught me. I would go into a night and I'd feel awful. And when I tried to resist that, when I tried to be like, I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel bad at dancing. I want to feel better. I've put in more work than this. I deserve a better dance than this. That's when I would suffer and have an awful time. And 3 days later, I'm coming out of this spiral, right? But when I was there and be like, you know what? Getting worse is a part of the process. And having bad days is a part of the process. Mm-hmm. This is my process. Let's go. Let me just enjoy the fact that I know I suck right now. Let me have fun within the sucking, in essence. That's when I would have fun and my state would change. I would get to the place where I'm like back to like, oh my God, again, what's going on?
It's a lesson for so many people because I feel like we judge ourselves on day-to-day basis, but not month-to-month, year-to-year basis, right?
Yeah.
Just let yourself live, you know? Sometimes you have to take one step back to take two steps forward, and people aren't willing to have the humility to take that one step back. And I think this story beautifully depicts that.
I would go a step further and say you have to take one step back in order to take two steps forward. That is how it works. Yeah. So that was my takeaway from this whole process was like, I just need to accept what it is. I need to stop fighting this natural flow of growth and decline. Let me just be present through it and trust a little bit.
I love that. I know you just recently just went on a retreat. It was a dance retreat. Could you speak a little bit about that, or?
Oh yeah, cool. So I was in a dance retreat in Zouk. It's called Zouk Mira. It's an event in Bali, Indonesia, ran by one of my friends. Actually, she does an incredible job with it. She has a good team too. And it's a life retreat. We're just gonna call it a life retreat, just not to get mixed up with anything. But it has dance elements. That was a huge focus with Zouk. And then it has Tantra elements. Now, Tantra in the modern world, a lot of people connect with sex, but it's not really that actually. It's all about transmutating any emotion, any feeling, anything into being really present with it. So we did Tantra with not at all, most of the time with another human being. It was within ourselves. So getting ourselves to release emotions in essence. And the retreat was 3 weeks long in total, but it had many different parts. And this part that I'm telling you about, the Tantra mixed with the dance, was a specific part of the three parts, the 3 weeks. And it was really intense. It was super intense. I went through so many emotions. It was wild. Yeah, it was crazy. And it was, wow, yeah. Do you want me to go a little? I can go a little bit deeper.
Please, I would love to. I think a lot of people would get value from this. I'm definitely getting some insights off of this. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Let me tell you a little more. Like, there's obviously the content of the retreat that I went through. That was intense for its own reasons. But there was something that I think was a little bit more applicable. The truth is, I've gone through this struggle since the beginning of this year of questioning whether dance is my thing. Another one of those moments where you want to quit something, right? And I won't say I'm fully past it, but I see the light and I'm heading towards it. My body hurts when I dance. And that sucks. When you're a professional dancer and you travel the world and every time you dance, your knees hurt. You're like, what am I going to do about this? That's the biggest mental challenge I faced. I got to the point where I was like, look, I'm okay if I get worse at dance. I'm okay if I start sucking again. I just really want my body to feel good because it sucks when it doesn't. And I've gone through this journey. After I got to this place of like, I don't know how dance fits into my life anymore. I was about to start an 8-month tour with my dance partner across the world, in Asia and Europe, to go teach. And in 8 months, I was like, I'm not coming home for 8 months and my knees hurt and I'm not sure how I feel about dance. I don't know how this is going to go. I remember having a call with her and being like, I don't know how I'm going to be on this trip. Like, I'm all over the place. I'm in a little bit of chaos with my profession, my world, my passion, my everything. What am I going to do? So I went on 8 months. Zouk Mira, this retreat, was the very end before I came home. And there was this moment where, let me give you a little backstory. The reason dance was in question was for 2 things. Number 1, my body hurts. Why am I doing something that hurts my body? Number 2, I had reached enough validation for my ego. I wanted to become one of the best social dancers in the world. That was my goal. I'm not saying I'm there, and I certainly have a ton more to learn. But I can say that my mind got fed enough validation from people that I felt like I had reached something that I had wanted for so long, that I had trained so hard for. When I met that, everything crashed. Everything became meaningless. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I training so much? Why am I hurting my body to do something? It felt gone. Like my love, my passion, everything disappeared. And then I went on my 8th-month journey to teach. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. 8 months later at Zouk Mira, I feel it all came to a pinnacle, all came to a point when I found a new reason for doing what I'm doing. And it was a much deeper reason than the egotistical validation of, I want to be known. I want to be able to travel the world. I want people to know my name in lots of places. I want to be good. I want people to feel good when they dance with me. That was very much me. I want. And I feel like I needed to go through that. I don't chastise that for any reason. And I'm also not saying there's still not pieces of that still active within me. For sure, there's that. But I felt like that died, and I needed a new reason. I need a new reason to work so hard in this thing. I need a new why, a new passion, and a new goal. And that wasn't there for many months. But the 8-month process that I went on needed to be there in order for me to learn. And I think I found that. I think Zouk Mira was kind of the pinnacle of me finding, here's why I want to dance. Here's why I'm going to keep doing this, even when my body hurts.
That is powerful. That is super powerful. Do you think that there was certain techniques or certain like dissociation that helped you find your why? Because you're in a completely different space, right? Bali, I mean, you're in a complete retreat, right? Did that sort of help find the why? Could people find it at home? I mean, obviously, it's not a straight shot answer for you. What kind of helped you find that why?
It's a really good question. Teaching helped me find that why for sure. Because I would sit there and I would listen to the struggles of my students. And I would say, everyone struggles with this. Everyone who goes through this dance struggles with the insecurity of always trying to do the right moves as a leader, as a random example. But there's many patterns. We're all stuck in the same pattern. I was stuck in that pattern. And guess what? Every advanced dancer I see, every artist that's traveling the world, they struggle with the same thing. Our answer to these struggles is not getting better. Our answers to our struggles is not getting better at dance. So I would sit there and I'd listen to the students teaching. And my goal, keep in mind, for this entire time has been, I want to get better at dance because I think it's going to solve my problems. I think it's going to give me the validation I want, or the fame that I desire. Getting better is the answer. Getting better is the answer. And then I got to a place where I felt like I had gotten better, and yet all my struggles were still there. And I would listen to students at all different stages, and I would talk to people who were more advanced than me, and they've struggled with the same things. And I was like, wow, I don't think getting better is the answer. I think we need something else. Wow. And I thought, and I think, and I have developed, and what I've been working on was tools to counter that, to counter the struggles that everyone faces. I want to help those people. And I became passionate in that moment after teaching. At Zouk Mira, I taught the most amount of lessons I've ever taught in my entire week experience. I just kept seeing the same struggles. And I was like, I think I can help this. And that was passion enough for me to want to keep going and say, you know what? Where can I take this? What can I do with this more? And I believe that, yeah, the atmosphere was definitely a part of that too. I was in Bali. If you want to talk about energy, you can think about it that way. But also just around a lot of people who are passionate about dance, intimate environment, releasing a lot of emotions and going deep into ourselves during that time period. I can't say that wasn't a part of it because that's the only time that I really got enough, as much clarity, you know? But it definitely had been a process. I'd been building up to this, and little puzzle pieces would come to me. I knew it wasn't the answer, but I'd have a moment that would impact me, and I was like, there's something here. What's going on? This I'm excited about. This excites me. This no longer excites me, but this excites me. Let's see where that goes. And I just kind of store it. I wouldn't feel the need to do anything about it. I would just bring it in and be like, I wonder where that's going to take me. And then trusting life a little bit too. It's going to take me where I need to go. I'm here for a reason.
Wow. That is super powerful. Now, going into the physical aspect, because, the passion, the why, the purpose, that's one aspect of it that I think we've touched upon.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the physical a little bit, are there things that you do to make sure that you're sustainably dancing, whether it's ice baths, whether it's sauna, whether it's massage, whatever it may be? I mean, are there certain modalities that you go through?
I love that so much. That's a really good question, actually. When it comes to all the crazy stuff, ice baths, sauna, what are all the crazes nowadays? What are some of the other
There's so
ones?
many.
Sleeping with the nose thing. What's that called? Going at the nose.
Yeah. The little,
So I can breathe at night.
Yeah, the little nose strip.
Little nose strip. Yeah, I don't do anything of those consistently. I mean, I love waking up without my phone and doing like a morning routine, but that's not necessarily for dance. But I will say the two things that I chose to do for dance specifically. I started meditating because of dance, and meditation changed my entire life. Now I'm going deeper into it in of itself. But that was the thing that I felt started to give me the answer to all these struggles that I've been facing in dance. So meditation was one thing that I loved, but it started to just change my life. So I have to say that I would encourage that regardless of your passion or art. I think it's an amazing thing to do.
Could you go into that routine really quickly? Do you meditate for a while? Like, because some people get discouraged meditating for half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, or is it a short routine that you kind of go into?
Yeah, great question. Recently, I've been doing 30 minutes in the morning. Yeah, but that's actually more than I've ever done, but it's also becoming more of a passion of mine and realizing how much impact it has on my life. So I've been prioritizing it more. But if you study meditation to any certain amount, you'll recognize that the frustration, I'm supposed to be empty-minded and I keep thinking. This is the whole misconception about meditation. Meditation's to clear your mind and I just can't. It doesn't work. That's the point. The point is not necessarily to clear your mind. The point is to recognize how active your mind already is. And that, to me, is what gave me answers. I'd be there going through my normal pattern of life, and then boom, I'd wake up and I'd be like, why did I think that? Is that what I normally think? What? That's what meditation started to do for me. So if you're getting frustrated while meditating, I don't think we're meditating the right way. There's a lot of things we can learn to meditate. And I'm not saying I'm past all these when I say this. I've just done a lot of research and put a lot of time and effort of realizing the truth, even if I'm not there all the way. I say realizing the truth, realizing things that help me and other people. So the first thing is like, hey, frustration with meditation can be coming from a misconception about what meditation should be and is. The second thing is, I found that I really enjoyed doing it before my art. So we go social dancing, which is 6 hours of dancing in this massive hotel. They put out a dance floor. You go and you ask random strangers to dance. And 10 minutes later, you pick a new person, or 3 hours later, you pick a new person, depending on how the dance goes. And I really enjoyed, before I did that, sitting down and meditating. I felt like I always had much better dances after that. I didn't know why. I didn't feel like my mind was more clear. I just noticed my mind thinking all the time. But somehow it helped. That's what started my journey. Now I'm diving way deeper into it, and I'm understanding a lot more about what meditation can do. The second thing that I've recognized for both myself and other dancers is that when our physical body hurts, It's the thing that takes us the most away from presence and pleasure in the art that we do. And maybe I speak from a dancer. I think of somebody who paints. Maybe it's a little bit different. But I don't want to suffer. I don't want to be in the middle of having the time of my life and my body starts hurting and I can no longer enjoy that moment. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm a professional athlete, even if a lot of other teachers and dance don't treat their bodies that way. So exercising, not just because my body feels better, but it helps my mind feel so much better. I'm at peace. I've done what I need to for my body. I've exercised. My body still hurts because I think I have knee problems, and I'm still exercising and finding new methods to make it better. But my mind becomes more at peace when I exercise. So those are the two things that, again, I've done a lot of things. I do a lot of things, but meditation and exercise are the two things that have really transformed and I feel like given me a foundation for dance.
I love that. Do you feel as if the physical trauma or the physical, difficulties that you've had through dance compare to with like Taekwondo and with that with martial arts? Excuse me.
Yeah. It's funny. I was much younger when I did martial arts, but I would even get kicked in the head and kicked in the stomach and jam my finger, and I never broke any bones. But actually, weirdly, it was pretty chill for me back then. And then I started doing a sport called tricking, which is, if you don't know, is another art. It's breakdancing, martial arts, and gymnastics, kind of all mixed together in this underground sport. I started doing that. I loved it. I loved being able to do a backflip anywhere and impress people. That hurt my body a lot. And I was like, you know what? It's not worth it for me to destroy my body because I am a martial arts teacher and I don't love this enough to keep doing it. But I started working out for it and stuff. Like I was getting into it. So I thought to myself, dance. And when I started dance, I was like, this is nice because it's not so hard on my body. Little did I know it might be the hardest thing on my body. So it didn't really work out like I planned. And I know a lot of dancers who feel similar. They're like, yeah, we kind of thought it would be really easy on our body. It's not so much. So weirdly, martial arts was more chill for my body. Even though I was fighting, like I was doing all the things, but I don't know. Maybe it was I was younger. Maybe I wouldn't do it so long. Like when I dance for 6 hours with very little breaks in between.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I feel as if, and I could be wrong by this, martial arts is more structured, right? It sounds like social dancing. It's way more improv on the go, and just you're sort of trying to mirror your partner. While it seems like martial arts also has a little bit more of a structure to it, and you could sort of be able to train those types of patterns. I'm sure you could train patterns with certain dances and certain
Yes,
aspects
you
of
can.
social dancing. But like you said, it's a lot of improv, and there's a lot of things that you have to think of on the fly. And I feel as if martial arts is much more structured. And I could be wrong.
Totally
Yeah.
right.
Now, for somebody, and this is for people who are looking to get into dance, what's something you think that they should know before getting into it? What's like the thing that they should focus on the most? We spoke a little bit about mental. We spoke a little bit about physical. What's something that they should really, really figure out, or they should really iron out before they actually get into the space?
That's a good question too. Yeah, the first thing I want to encourage is just be willing to try something new. I think what's the most challenging in social dancing is that you're dancing with other people. So, for example, in martial arts, if you suck on martial arts, you don't really affect anyone. You're hitting the pad and it's okay. In dance, when you feel like you're not so good at dance, it kind of affects another person you feel. So it can be way more socially scary. And so my encouragement is don't take it so seriously. Is to go out there, have fun. It's amazing to meet people. It's an amazing community. It can be very open and very welcoming and accepting. And just be willing to try something new, if nothing else, but to learn something about yourself, The second thing I would say is be okay taking it slow. I think there's a lot of pressure when we learn social dance specifically to do all the fanciest thing. I need to be good enough, so I need to learn all the moves. I need to do the right thing. Sometimes just slowing down and being like, you know what, let me just be really good at transferring weight from one foot to another. And just how can I explore? just this little aspect right here. And the third thing and the last thing is use dance, I believe, this is my pedagogy, would be use dance as a tool to get out of your head. And that's really hard when you start dance. Start dancing but not be in your head. What? How do you not think about the things that you're doing? Of course, there's a certain stage that will need. But maybe work on or try to develop or try to play with the idea of just being present, of just paying attention to something. Maybe that's paying attention to your partner. Maybe that's paying attention to how your feet move. Like, dance is so much bigger than just dance. It's really a mirror for life. Mm. And so use it as such, and use it as a way to become present with your body, to connect with another human without being in your head. It's such a great tool to learn so many aspects of life. So you can treat it as such too, and go into it with a little bit more of an open mind. Have fun with it too. I think this would be my first thing that come to my head on the top of my head. That
was amazing. That really was truly amazing. You spoke a little bit about learning a lot about yourself. I mean, did you learn a lot about yourself through your dance journey?
So much. I'm still learning so much.
I could only imagine. Is it more mentally or physically, right? Because I'm sure there's sometimes when after a day of or 6-hour session of you dancing, you're like, wow, I really did well today. I didn't realize that I could balance on my toes like that, or I didn't know my balance, I was like this. Is it more physical or mental that you learn more about yourself?
The physical awareness certainly comes as an influence of just dancing so much. Like, my physical awareness has certainly improved tremendously. What has shocked me more in my own learning has been the mental. Not even just the mental, but the mental about the physical. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'll dance and I'll do things I've never done before, like you mentioned. And I'm in shock. I'm like, whoa, my body can do so much. I'm kind of like impressed with it. And then I realized that the reason I got there was not because my physical body knew how to do that stuff. It did not. I was not there. Like, I've never done that before. I do moves I've never done, as an example. But I learned that I did that because of the mental state that I was in. And maybe I'm reflecting on this as I share it with you, actually, for the first time. That all my realizations have come, even about my physical body, have come about the wonder of how my mental state has influenced my physical body. Like, our mind's really all we have control over, what we pay attention to, what we give our body commands to do from our mind, but it's all from our mind. So I'm realizing how powerful this thing is, I think that's where my biggest realizations and learnings have come from.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah. And again, going back into something as powerful as dance, where it feels like the mental, whatever your mental state is at that given moment, it could easily reflect in your dance, especially being so improv, not being structured. It's super important to make sure that, like you said, you meditate and you have a kind of clear headspace going into it, and not being super egotistical, and making sure that you're one with yourself. So super, super powerful. Before we head off, what are the next steps for you, right? Obviously, you're dancing and stuff like that. Is there any more retreats? Are you teaching? What's sort of something that you're getting yourself into over the next couple months?
Yeah, teaching over the States, teaching in Brazil, and figuring out what my next year looks like as I work with my body and the pain that I'm experiencing, as I work with my passion for dance and my love for it. So certainly some travels and things like that, but maybe what I feel more called to share, what influences me more in this moment, is I've learned so strongly firsthand that I dance to the best of my ability by being fully present in the moment and not stuck in my head. This I've witnessed over and over, both with myself and with my students. It's mind-blowing how it works. When I can train myself to be present, when I train presence, meditation, whatever, when I train presence, I always dance at my best for that day. Even through the peaks, even if I'm at a low state, with dance, I feel like I suck it out. If I'm present at the best low state I can possibly have, that's the best I can
Wow.
do. So I've seen this, but I have this theory, and I read a book about it. It's called The Inner Game of Tennis. It's how you train through presence, how you train without using your mind. Now, Mike, all my dance journey, I've beat myself up in my brain. I need to do more. I need to train harder. I need to focus more. I need to work harder. I need to get this down. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not good? My mind has taken over this training process of learning. And I have this theory that we can learn. Like I can develop and get better and learn without having to think about it all the time. Because I see that when I'm performing, let's call it, which is just social dancing for me, but performing, when I perform, I'm at my very best when I'm present. And I've seen this across all sports psychology too. They'll say the same thing. So I see that so clearly. Why am I learning in a different way than how I would perform at my best? How can I learn something, a new skill, learn dance, learn physicality by being really present with it? I believe there's a way to do it, and I've never seen anyone else teach it, especially in dance. Maybe in other ways they can. I want to figure that out. I want to put meditation and learning together and figure out how can I learn, how can I get even better at dance without ever having to think about it, as a bold claim. That's my next thing that I'm passionate about, and that's what I figured out at Zouk Mira. I want to figure this out so I can get people out of their head and stop this mental chatter that only holds us back from doing our best.
Wow. And that could apply to so many different realms too, not even just dance, right?
Can apply to life.
About life that hold people back each and every day, not being present, especially with the grand scheme of things of what goes on in the outside world. There's so many people that aren't present, and that's ever growing nowadays. And I think that's something that's going to be super, super profound, especially for you and your journey. So I really, really look forward to following up with that. That's super interesting.
Thank you, Mike. I think the world needs it, and I want to help.
Yeah, that's awesome. So for our last thing, is there anything, just really quickly, where could people follow you just for your journey
Uh,
and stuff like that, just to plug
yeah.
yourself?
Yeah. Instagram's really the best way to get in contact with me. Honestly, I love messages too, so if you do watch this and want to reach me, I would love to see a message from you. It'd brighten my day. It's at my first and last name, at William Wegert. I don't know if they can see it down here in the corner. William, and then my last name, Wegert, Wegert. Instagram's the best way. That's really how you get in touch with me.
Perfect. And we'll make
So,
sure
I'd love to.
to include it in the bio too, so they'll
Perfect.
definitely be able to get in contact with you. And
I love that.
it was an
Great.
absolute pleasure speaking with you. And I feel like so many people got so many insights, whether it's physical, mental, how to get started, getting a little insight on your journey. And I really, really appreciate. I know you have a hectic schedule, so I really appreciate you giving me some time. And hopefully, maybe down the road, we could follow up on sort of your journey over the next couple months, because I would love to be able to follow up
Yeah.
with that.
Let's see if I can learn this new tool and teach it to you guys.
I'm sure we'll be able to. Thank you so much, Will. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Mike, thank you so much. I
Of
appreciate
course.
you.